Hi, my name is Tim King. I am a band director and clarinet and bass clarinet instructor, and I live in Rockwall, Texas. This video is to help you to prepare for the West Texas A&M University Band Camp, middle school or junior high, even year audition material specifically for the bass clarinet. In this video, I'm going to be covering the music, both the theme and all the variations, and be counting all of the rhythms and playing each measure for you. I'm going to be pointing out all the different musical aspects like dynamics and articulations, and also possible issues when playing the bass clarinet through all this music. At the very end of the video, I'm going to do a complete run through of the entire audition material from start to finish. Before we begin, let's talk about a few things that you'll need to know to help you to practice and prepare the music. The very first thing I want to point out are the key signatures. This piece has two separate key signatures. It starts out in the key of concert E flat, which is our F major scale, and it has one flat, B flat to be worried about. Starting at variation 3, the key changes to the key of concert F, or our G major scale. It will have one sharp F sharp, but more importantly, that B will now become natural. So be aware of that key change there. This piece also has separate time signatures. It starts out in 4/4 time, and then at the very end, the last variation, it goes to 2/4 time. So if you are unfamiliar with these keys or some of the more complex rhythms, make sure that you practice these scales and work on counting out all of the rhythms. You might seek help from your band director, a private instructor, or maybe older students who are also trying out for the band camp audition. We will be counting the rhythms using the Eastman counting system, the one-ta-ta-ta, throughout this video, but it's also very easy to switch it to traditional if you need to. A suggestion that I have for you guys is that you might spend time or ask your director to spend time creating a scale pattern using all the different rhythms that you might see within this music. This can be something you use to practice counting and also playing on a daily basis, just to help you feel very comfortable playing all the different rhythms in the music. So for the beginning, when we're in the key of concert E flat, it might look like something like this. And again, we're only going to be in 4/4 time because that is the only time signature we use in this key. Later on, when you change keys to the key of concert F, yours could look something like this. Another scale, but with different rhythms that come from the actual music. This one also I included some 2/4 times since it does change there. So again, those could be very helpful to just really isolate those different rhythms and then practicing them with just a repeated note instead of the changing notes in the rhythms in the actual piece. All right, let's look at the very top at the beginning of the piece. It says at the very beginning, moderato, quarter note equals 80, and in parentheses it says suggested. That is a suggested tempo to take this entire piece. You can choose to go slower or faster depending on your ability. When I perform this at the very end, I'm actually going to be taking this at a faster tempo of 90. When you're just starting out, I would definitely use a slower tempo. So when we work through all the different theme and variations, we're going to be using a tempo of 60, and I suggest using an eighth note subdivision. If your metronome doesn't have that option, all you have to do is set your metronome to 120 and you'll achieve the same effect. Remember that this piece starts out very easy, and each variation gets a little more advanced with different notes and different rhythms that you'll see. You only need to play this audition music to the end of the theme or variation that you're most comfortable with. It is not necessary to play the entire piece. You will get higher consideration for a higher band and higher chair if you can play through the entire piece. But again, only do what is most comfortable for you. Okay, as we get started, another suggestion for you is to number all of your measures. This will help to save time to find where we are in the video and then also on your individual practice as well. We're going to be looking at the theme, which is measures 1 through 7, that entire top line. If you look at the end of that line, you'll see a double bar at the end of measure 7. It's not a finale bar, it's not the end of the entire piece, but that is the end of the theme. Remember, you only need to play through the end of the theme and or variation that you feel comfortable playing for the audition. But the bare minimum is you have to play that top line, the theme. All right, look underneath measure 1. You see the letters MF. That stands for mezzo forte or medium loud. That's how loud we expect you to be playing this beginning, and it's almost the entire theme. So play at a good full volume, but don't play as soft as you can, and also don't play as loud as you can either. Watch for the slurs. You will notice that almost every measure has a slur in there. A reminder is a slur is a line between different notes. You will tongue the first note of a slur, but any note underneath the slur you do not tongue. All right, let's take a look at measures 1 and 2. Measure 1 starts with an F half note. You tongue that note and then you slur to an open G. Then in measure 2, you start on an A and then the next note's an F. You notice that we skip the open G. Be very careful not to let that G speak. You got to be very quick and smooth with your fingers so we don't hear that extra sound. You don't tongue the F, and in the last note is an open G. You don't tongue that one either. You only tongue at the beginning. All right, let's count measures 1 and 2. Remember, we're using a tempo of 60 with an eighth note subdivision. Counting measures 1 and 2, here I go. 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, I'm going to play it now. You can choose to back that up and count that measures with me, and then also choose to play it with me too. Here we go, measures 1 and 2, playing. Down, up, 2, let's play it, here we go. Okay, let's go on to measures 3 and 4. Now in measure 3, the very first thing I want to point out is the last note. That is a B flat. Remember, the flat comes from our key signature. So what I recommend is go ahead and take your pencil and put a flat symbol in front of that B to remind yourself it is a flat note. Thumb 1, 2, 3, first finger. All right, at the beginning of the measure, you start with a D. You do tongue that note. It's a half note. Then you slur to the next note, a C. Then you slur to the B flat. Now in measure 4, we have 2 half notes. Make sure they're played as half notes. 2 beats, 4 pulses. Don't play them short. A lot of students do. It starts on a low A, thumb 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it skips up to a C, thumb 1, 2, 3. Make sure we don't have any extra notes. Plus, both of these notes are tongued. This is the only measure where all the notes are tongued. Let's go ahead and count measures 3 and 4. And down, up, 3 and 4, counting, here we go. 1, 3, 4, 1, 3. let's go ahead and play measures 3 and 4. And down, up, playing, and here we go. All right, let's take a look now at measures 5, 6, and 7. 5, 6, and 7. Now in measure 5, your very first note is an other B flat. I would take the pencil and mark that first note B flat 2. That is an A and register key B flat. You will tongue that B flat. The second note goes down to A natural. You don't tongue that one. The next note is an open G and you hold it for a half note, 2 full beats. Now in measure 6, that entire measure is slurred and it's open G, thumb F, E. Very simple notes. You tongue the open G, but you don't tongue the thumb F or the E. But look underneath it, you have a crescendo. It looks like a greater than symbol. That means that you're going to gradually get louder in that measure. So open G is mezzo forte, thumb F's a little louder, E is a little louder. And make sure that you're holding that E for a half note, 2 full beats. The loudest note in the theme will be the next note in measure 7, that thumb F. You jump back up and tongue that thumb F, it's going to be very loud. Then, after it, you look underneath, is a day crescendo. It's the reverse of the crescendo. It looks like a less than symbol. That means gradually gets softer, and you'll do it for the entirety of that note. That note is a dotted half note. It gets 3 full beats or 6 pulses. Hold it all the way up to that quarter rest at the end. Let's count measures 5, 6, and 7 first. Down, up, count. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. All right, let's go ahead and play measures 5, 6, and 7. Down, up, 2, and here we play. What I'm going to do now is play the entire theme from start to finish. Remember, that's all you have to do for the bare minimum to audition for the WTAMU band camp. All right, here we go. The entire theme played. Down, up, 2, and here we play. Okay, now let's take a look at variation 1, measures 8 through 12. If you look at the end of measure 12, you will see another double bar line. That is the end of that variation, not the piece. It's not a finale double bar. All right, if you look at measure 8, you will notice first off that there is no dynamic marking for this variation, but it's kind of understood that you'll still play it at mezzo forte medium loud, and it will be that way for the entire variation. Okay, we're looking at measures 8 and 9. In measure 8, the very last note is a B flat again, the A and the register key. I would go ahead and put a flat in front of that note to mark that. Now, measure 8 starts with a thumb F, then it goes down to a C, thumb F again. That C to thumb F, those eighth notes are slurred. You tongue the C but not the F. Then starting on beat 3, we have the dotted quarter eighth note rhythm. So a dotted quarter is worth 1.5 beats, or down, up, down. That much of a foot tap, 3 pulses, 3. The next note, that B flat, is an eighth note, and it happens when your foot goes back up, or the upbeat, and it's a te. So together it's 3 te. I would go ahead, if you need it, and mark the foot language, the down, up, down for the dotted quarter note, and then the up for the eighth note, down, up, up. And then also I would write the counts underneath it. 3, te. Till you feel very comfortable. I think that is a very good suggestion. All right, in measure 9, you have an A quarter note to an F quarter note, and then an open G half note. Very simple, they're all tongued. Let's go ahead and count measures 8 and 9. And down, up, 8 and 9, counting, here we go. 1, 2, te, 3, te, 1, 2, 3. Let's go ahead and play measures 8 and 9. And down, up, playing, here we go. Okay, now if you look at the end of measure 9, the bar line between measures 9 and 10, you'll see above that an apostrophe. That is actually a breath mark, and you'll notice I circled it in my music. That means that the composer wants you to take a breath here. What you will need to do is you're going to cheat that half note just a very little bit to take a breath mark. That is to make sure the first note in measure 10 is right on the downbeat. But they do want you to take a breath here. Let's take a look at measure 10. Measure 10 starts with a D quarter note, then you have a C that is an eighth note slurred to a B flat. Remember that note is flat because of the key signature. Again, I would take my pencil and put a flat symbol in front of that B flat. You tongue the C, you slur to the B flat. Then the next note is the low A, the thumb 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the last note is the low F, thumb 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the bottom top pinky. Notice that from the low A, we skipped that low G to get to the low F. Make sure that those notes stay nice and full and don't get softer. We're still playing just at a mezzo forte. Let's just go ahead and count measure 10. And down, up, measure 10, counting, here we go. 1, 2, te, 3, 4. Let's play measure 10. Down, up, measure 10, play it, here we go. Okay, now take a look at measures 11 and 12. Now in measure 11, this rhythm can be a little tricky here. It starts with a C quarter note. Your next note is the B flat again. I would go ahead and put a flat symbol in front of that B flat. Then it slurs to a low A, and then you get to play that low G. Thumb 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? And you tongue that eighth note low G. So 1, 2, te, 3. 1, 2, te, 3. I would break this measure up a little bit to practice it. Tongue, slur, tongue. Then you jump up to a C, thumb 1, 2, 3, and you slur from a C to a D to an E. C, D, E. Te, for, te. So putting it together, 1, 2, te, 3. Te, for, te. Tongue, slur, tongue, slur. So this can be a little tricky measure. You might just practice this one by itself. Then measure 12 is very simple. You have a thumb F quarter note to a C quarter note to a thumb F half note. Make sure you hold that 2 full beats, and they're all toned. Let's go ahead and count measures 11 and 12. And down, up, counting 11, 12, here we go. 1, 2, te, 3, te, 4, te, 1, 2, 3. Let's play measures 11 and 12. And down, up, 11, 12, play it, here we go. Now, I'm going to go ahead and play all of variation 1, measures 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Try to notice that I'm going to take that breath between measures 9 and 10 because the composer wants us to do so. Here we go. Variation 1, complete through. And down, up, variation 1, here we go. take a look at variation 2. This is from measures 13 through measure 17. Go ahead and take a look again at the end, measure 17 at the very end. We have another double bar, and we now realize that's just the end of the variation, not the final double bar. But notice after it, do you see the sharp symbol? That is to help you prepare for the upcoming key change in variation 3. That sharp symbol will not affect anything in variation 2. But you might notice I circled that. That's to prep me to remind myself when I'm playing through that the key change is about to happen again. So you might want to go ahead and circle that. That's a very good suggestion. Okay, take a look at measures 13 and 14. We're going to start there first, okay? Now, in measure 13, you will notice that it is just eighth notes. 1 te, 2 te, 3 te, 4 te. No real tricks with the rhythms here. But take a look at the articulations. The first note you tongue and then you slur the next 3. Then on beat 3, you tongue that note and slur the next 3 again. So slur, slur. Very simple, very easy articulation pattern. Now the last note in measure 13 is another B flat. I would go ahead, get your pencil, put a flat symbol in front of it, mark that note, A in the register key. So underneath measure 13 though, we have something very important. We have a crescendo, gradually getting louder again. You will want to make each note be a little bit louder than the one before, all the way up into measure 14. Now in measure 14, very simple rhythm, quarter, quarter, half note, A, low C, open G. Now the A and the C will be at forte. They'll be the loudest notes of this variation. The G will slightly decrescendo back down to mezzo forte. So let's go ahead and count measures 13 and 14, and then we'll play it. And down, up, 13, 14, counting, here we go. 1 te, 2 te, 3 te, 4 te, 1, 2, 3. Let's go ahead and play it. 2, and ready, here we play. All right, now if you notice, the bar line between measures 14 and 15 has another breath mark, and you notice that I circled that one too. The composer wants you to take a breath here. So you will cheat that half note in measure 14 ever so slightly to take the breath. Make the first note in measure 15 right on the downbeat of 1. Don't try to cheat that note. Okay, we're going to take a look now at measures 15, 16, and 17. First thing I want to point out is the dynamics. We start at mezzo forte, it stays mezzo forte for the entire 3 measures, so no worry about the dynamics here. Now, the third note in is another B flat, thumb 1, 2, 3, first finger. Let's go ahead and mark it. Get a pencil out, put a flat symbol in front of it. 3 notes later, another B flat. I would mark that one. The first note of 16, B flat. 3 notes later, another B flat. 2 notes later, another B flat. Lots of B flats here. Go ahead and just mark them, get them out of the way so you know that you play them correctly. Now, let's look at measure 15, and let's just look at those first 4 notes. Measures 15 and 16 has a repeated pattern in terms of articulations and the way you play the notes. So let's work on that 4 notes at a time. So the first 4 notes at 15 are D, C, B flat, D, the first note we play, D, C, B flat, D. So you go down 2 notes and then back up to the first note you played again. Look at what the composer wants you to do with your tongue. You tongue the first note, the D, D, then you slur to C, then the B flat, but then you tongue the D again. So you're just tonguing the Ds. So slur, tongue, D, C, B flat, D. I would practice just those 4 notes until you can play it. Slur, tongue. Now, look at the next 4 notes. It's the same articulation pattern, it's the same rhythm. What changes is the notes. C, B flat, low A, C. C, B flat, low A, C. Notice the first note and the last note are the same again. I would practice just those 4 notes. Then, measure 16, the first 4 notes there are the same pattern again, same rhythm, same slurs. Notes change. B flat, low A, G, B flat. Now, the last 3 notes in measure 16, they're different, okay? So we start on a C, we go to a B flat and a low A, it's 3, te, 4, and it's slurred, slur. So I would practice like that, those 4 notes at a time, work them out until you got them really clean, and then work on trying to put them back together for those 2 measures. Let's look at measure 17 now. The first note in measure 17 is that low F thumb, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that top bottom pinky. It is tongued, and then you slur up to a low A, 2 fingers up. Then you go back down to a low G, put that finger down, tongued, and then you tongue up to a C. A lot of fingers moving up there. Make sure we don't hear extra notes, and then you finish with a low F or a half note there. So let's count measures 15, 16, 17, and then we'll play it. And down, up, counting 15, here we go. 1, te, 2, te, 3, te, 4, te, 1, te, 2, te, 3, te, 4, 1, te, 2, te, 3. Let's play those 3 measures. Ready? Measure 15, here we play. Okay, I'm going to play all of variation variation 2 now, starting in measure 13. Here we go. And down, up, variation 2, playing, here we go. Okay, now we're on to variation 3. Variation 3 is from measures 18 to 25. Take a look at the end of measure 21. Notice we don't have a double bar there. That's because that's not the end of the variation. This one is 2 lines long. It's at the end of measure 25. So if you are into variation 3, you've got to get through both lines to complete that variation. Now, take a look at the beginning of the variation. As a reminder, the biggest thing in variation 3 is the change of the key. We are now in the key of concert F, 1 sharp, F sharp. That's our G major scale. So we'll have first finger F sharps, but we'll also have B naturals, thumb 1, 2, 3, middle finger, not first finger B flats, but middle finger. So make sure you're aware of those note changes. Now, there's a lot going on in this variation and a lot of new information. So I'm going to break this down 4 measures at a time, play those 4 measures, and then I'll go back and play the entire etude for practice purposes. Or not etude, but the variation. Okay, so look at measures 18 and 19. Look at the dynamics. There's not a marking there, so we're going to maintain the last dynamic we had, which is mezzo forte, medium loud, and it's going to stay that way through those entire 2 measures. Now, in measure 18, on the 3rd beat, we have a new rhythm. We haven't seen this before. We have a dotted 8th and our first 16th note in this entire piece. So dotted 8th, 16th. The dotted 8th note is just 3 16th notes tied together. And it's so it's a 3 ta te, then that last ta is that last 16th, 3 ta te ta. If you look at my music, you'll see that I wrote the 16th note pattern, the 3 ta te ta, and then tied the first 3 together. Then I went ahead and wrote the count underneath that. 3 ta, 3 ta te ta, 3 ta. So don't be afraid of that little rhythm there. It's not too difficult. It's just something maybe new for some of y'all. Now, look at the last note in measure 18. That is a high C. We're going to go over what we call the break. Hopefully, if you are a first-year player and you've been a beginning clarinet class, you've practiced that already. If you have not, that's okay. We'll give you a couple little pointers here. Now, that high C is fingered thumb register, so with the register key down, but you also have the thumb down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that top bottom pinky or low F key. So it's just like the low F, but we're pushing that register key down. Now most bass clarinets, you notice, have that little hole in the middle of the key. You've got to make sure that your finger is covering that little hole up. You can't have it down here uncovered, so make sure that's covered up too. Now, that high C is not too difficult to get out, but a lot of things can be factors into that for sure. One of them being maybe sometimes bass clarinets aren't sealing properly, they're leaking a little bit. And that's something, if you are having a hard time getting that note out, you might ask your band director to check that for you to make sure your bass clarinet's working properly. But assuming that it's working properly, you also want to make sure that you're keeping open in your throat, in your chest. Think like you're fogging up a window on a cold day. Relaxed and open, not tight. Then you want to keep firm embouchure pressure, but you don't want to bite. That will cause it to squeak too. The last thing is just making sure when you're going up to that note that you go ahead and get your fingers down as fast as you can on the register key, especially too, and covered up completely. Make sure they're even when you get those fingers down. That can sometimes cause that note to not speak or squeak again. A lot of players, if they've just switched over from clarinet to bass clarinet, try to bite and are too harsh on those high notes, and that causes them to squeak quite often. So one suggestion would be to play what we call register studies. Hopefully you've done this with your teachers before too. So what that means is that we'll play the low F, the same fingering as the high C, thumb 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, top, bottom, pinky, but without the register key. You play it for a half note, then you add the register key and see if you can make that high C speak. Don't tongue it, just try to see if you can make it speak. Also, make sure that you're not doing anything weird to change that embouchure. It should come out easily. If it doesn't, that might be a reason to take it to your director and say, hey, can you check this? Okay, now the last thing is on that high C, a lot of players sometimes struggle to get it to speak and they think it's like bonus points to get that note out. And so they'll stop playing the actual rhythm of the piece to try to make that note speak, thinking they're going to get something by making it come out. Actually, it's better to go ahead and just play the rhythm and keep the rhythmic integrity for the piece. If it doesn't speak, pretend it did and just keep going on. I know that's difficult to do, but that honestly is the best thing more than anything else. All right, take a look at measure 19. I know it's a lot on measure 18, but there's a lot going on there. Now in measure 19, your first note is a B natural. Notice I circled it. It's not a B flat A in the register key, it's a B natural. Thumb register again, this is over the break. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The top, bottom, pinky, like we're playing that C again, but the inside left hand pinky. That is your B natural. Then you go to a regular old A, open G, and then you finish with an A half note. Now, I put on my music RH and put a line across there. I'm going to keep my right hand down through that entire measure. B natural, A, G, A. There's no reason to pick this hand up. It's just a lot of extra work. So I'm going to leave that right hand down. You can also leave the right hand down on the A natural before the C, and that can help you also getting your high C out really quick and smooth. Look at the articulations of measure 19. You tongue the first note, the B natural, then you slur to the A and the G, and then you tongue the last note on the A half note. Let's count measures 18 and 19. That's a lot of information in those two measures. And down, up, 18, 19, counting, here we go. 1, 2, 3, ta, forte, 1, 2, 3. Let's play measures 18 and 19. Down, up, playing, and here we go. Now, if you look at the bar line between 19 and 20, we have another breath mark. It's the same deal. We're going to cheat that half note just a little bit in measure 19 and make sure that E is right on the downbeat of measure 20. Now, measure 20 and 21. First thing is we're in a very comfortable range again. Nothing too difficult. Look at beat 3, that fourth note in measure 20. That is a B natural. That's why I have it circled in my music. Thumb 1, 2, 3, middle finger. Make sure you play that B natural. Now, you have E, D, C, B natural, those notes are slurred. Then you have a low G. You play that one big and full there. Now, notice the dynamics in measure 20. It jumped up to forte with no crescendo. It just immediately got louder. So make sure that E is big and full and loud and louder than the last note in measure 19. Then you have a decrescendo right after it. You're going to gradually get softer for the rest of that measure. Measure 21 is mezzo piano. That's as soft as you're going to get. This is the softest we've been in this piece so far. Your first note in 21 is a B flat. Now we're back to the B flat we've been playing for the beginning of this piece. Then low A, G, then a low F natural, just like we've been playing so far. That natural symbol is there because the key signature wants us to play F sharps. We have to counteract that and make it play an F natural. Then you play a low F natural again, then back up to an A. You tongue the first note in 21 and you slur to that low F, then you tongue the last two. Let's count measures 20 and 21. 2, counting, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's play 20 and 21. 2 and playing, here we go. Now let's play 18, 19, 20, and 21. 2, ready, here we go. All right, now let's take a look at measures 22, 23, 24, and 25. This is finishing out variation 3. Now, the first thing I want to point out in measure 22 is the dynamic. Notice it's mezzo forte. If you remember in measure 21, it's mezzo piano, medium soft. 22 is mezzo forte, medium loud. So this is louder. You want to make a dynamic difference. Go ahead and make sure to play this out louder here. Now, in measure 22 and 23, we have our first appearance of full 16th rhythms, the one-ta-ta-ta. This is usually not very difficult, but a lot of players tend to rush this a little bit. So make sure to keep your fingers smooth and even and practice with the metronome. That will help a lot. Now, let's take a look at the notes in measure 22. We start on the low G, then we go up to the A, then a B natural, middle finger. That's a natural symbol there. The composer put it there because in measure 21 you had played a B flat. He wants to make sure that you remember to play that B natural middle finger there. Then you go up to a C, then you have a D for a half note. 2 beats. A lot of players cheat that D and don't play it long enough. Make sure it's 2 full beats there. Now, notice the articulations. You tongue the very first note, that low G, and you slur all the way up to that D. I would practice this very slowly to make sure your fingers are smooth and even, and then gradually speed it up. I would do this with the metronome too. I'm not going to do this right now, but this is an example. Just repeating that over and over and gradually speeding it up to make it smooth and even. Now the last 2 notes in 22 you do tongue, and notice that last note is still a B natural. That's still middle finger B natural. Now in measure 23 you have the same rhythm. You have the same articulations. That means the same slurring and tonguing. You also have the same dynamic. It's still mezzo forte. What changes is the notes we're playing. So in measure 23 we have a low A, B natural again, still B natural because of the key change, C, D, E for a half note, and that's all slurred. Then you come back to a D, C. Just like in measure 22, you might practice the 16th notes very slowly, making sure to keep your fingers smooth and even, and then speed it up. Now, let's count measures 22 and 23, and then we'll play it. Down, up, 22, counting, here we go. 1-ta-ta-ta-2, forte. 1-ta-ta-ta-2, forte. Let's play 22 and 23. 2, ready, play it, go. Okay, look at measures 24 and 25. 24 is not too difficult at all. It's just quarter notes. Starts on that B natural middle finger, slur down to an A, slur down to a low G, then finishing on a D, thumb 1, 2, D. Notice the articulations. You tongue the first note, that B natural, slur, slur, then tongue that D. And most importantly though, look at the dynamics. You start that still at that mezzo forte volume, but you're going to get soft decrescendo to piano, soft. This is the softest we've played in this entire piece up to now. That's going to be that last note D. When you play soft, just use less air, but keep it very fast to have an impact with your tone. That way it's not airy sounding. Now, look at measure 25. We have 2 beats of 16ths back to back. 1 ta te ta, 2 ta te ta. Very simple. Notice the articulations. You only tongue the first note of each group of 4 16ths. Slur, slur. Also very simple too. Let's look at the notes. Low G, low A, B natural middle finger, C. Then B natural middle finger, low A, low G. That next note is not a low F, but a low F sharp. Remember the key signature change. All Fs are now sharp. So go ahead and take your pencil and put a sharp symbol in front of that note. To play the low F sharp, I would use thumb 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, low G, then the bottom set of keys, the very top one. You'll notice it pushes this outside key too, but I would go ahead and use this one. It will be the easiest. Then you come back up to that G. So just like what we did in measure 22 and 23, you might just practice the 16th notes one at a time. Like that first beat, the low G, A, B natural, C, I would go ahead and tongue that first note in the second beat, the B natural again in measure 25. Then practice the second group in measure 25, the B natural, A, G, low F sharp, G. Then practice putting them together. This might take a little time. All right, let's count measures 24 and 25. And down, up, counting 24, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 ta ti ta, 2 ta ti ta, 3. Let's play it. 2, ready, and go. Let's go ahead and play 22, 23, 24, and 25. 2, ready, and go. And let's go ahead and play all of variation 3, measures 18 through 25, both lines. 2, ready, and go. Now we're on to variation 4. Variation 4 is measures 26, 27, 28, and 29. But I want to point out right away, look at measure 29. You'll notice at the end of that line, you see a bar line, but it looks like it's dashed. That's because that measure is incomplete. That is the end of the variation. It's not a double bar line. But if you look ahead to variation 5 real quick, that first little measure is not a complete measure. That's the rest of measure 29. So we'll deal with that when we get to variation 5, but just be aware variation 29 doesn't finish a complete measure. That's why you don't see the double bar line there, but that is the end of the variation. I will go ahead and circle that just to remind myself that. Okay, let's go back. We're going to look at this a measure at a time because we have a lot of 16th rhythms in here. Let's take a look at measure 26. First thing I want to point out is the dynamic. Mezzo, piano, medium, soft. Remember we finished variation 3, measure 25, at piano, soft. This will be a little bit louder. Mezzo piano, medium, soft. Now, take a look at that first beat rhythm. We have an 8th note and 2 16ths. 1 take-ta. This is a new rhythm. We haven't seen this yet. 1 take-ta. Long, short, short. So just make sure that's counted correctly, and you notice I put the counts underneath mine. Then the second beat is 2 ta take ta, then 3 te 4 te. 1 take ta, 2 ta take ta, 3 te 4 te. We'll count that again here in a second. Now, take a look at the 16th notes, the very first 2 16th notes you have. You see that they have a little dot underneath those notes. That is called a staccato mark. That is a way to play that note, to tongue it. The best way to think of that is to think of the word light or separated. Sometimes composers or directors will tell you to think of the word short. In this case, we don't want to think short because you might think that you have to tongue harsh to keep it short, and we don't want to do that. We want them to be light and separated. So just use one taste bud on the reed and make them not touch each other, separated. They don't want to touch each other. Don't let those notes with dots touch the other notes. Keep them separated, like a brother or sister sometimes need to be separated. Okay, now, if you look at those notes, you have tongue, light, light, those are staccatos, then you slur the next two. Slur, then you have staccatos again, light, light. Then the first 2 8th notes are slurred, then you have staccatos for the last 2 8th notes. Make sure you keep the rhythm accurate. Don't just play the articulations and keep them all the same length. Now, look at the notes. Low G, low A, B natural, C, D, E, F sharp. Now, that's in the key signature. I would go ahead and you see I put a little sharp symbol in front of that F. I know it's tricky because it's tight, but I would mark that F sharp. Then open G, D, low B natural, back to the D. That is just a concert F major scale going up, and it's arpeggio. So if you've practiced that, you're set, ready to play this. Let's count measure 26, and then we'll play it. 2, ready, here we count. 1, te-ta, 2 ta, te-ta, 3, te, 4, te. Let's play it. 2, ready, here we go. Hopefully you could hear how I'm trying to make those staccato notes not touch each other, keeping them light and separated. All right, let's take a look at measure 27. Again, the first thing I want to point out is the first 2 notes are slurred, then we have staccatos again, light, separated. Then the next 2 notes are slurred, staccatos again, then we just have a regular old half note. Now, look at the notes. We have C, D, E, F natural. The composer put a natural symbol there. He wants you to play thumb F there. Then open G, thumb F again, E. Notice you skip the D to the C, then back up to the D for a half note. I would practice maybe that first beat alone, then practice that second beat alone. And making sure you get that skip from that E to the C, then back up to the D. All right, make sure the D is held out full value. Again, I mentioned we have the slurs and staccatos, but look underneath those 16th notes. The first 16ths going up are going to get louder, a crescendo. Then the second 16th notes will get softer, a decrescendo. So the loudest note in that measure should be your open G. Make that the loudest note. Let's count measure 27 and then we'll play it. 2, ready, here we count. 1 ta ta ta, 2 ta ta ta, 3. Playing 27. Here we go. Let's look at measure 28. That first beat starts with the same rhythm that we've had before. So 1 theta. You'll notice I wrote in the counts underneath that 1, 2. Look at the notes. E flat, thumb 1, 2, bottom side key is how I'll play that, because the next note is E natural. I just have to let go of that side key, and then a C. Now take a look though at that first note. You'll notice there's a line underneath it. That is a legato marking, okay? So staccatos, remember I said KN means short, legatos are the exact opposite. They're long, smooth and connected are the words I like to think of too. So the next 2 16ths are marked staccato, long, short, short. That really fits right now to help explain that the most simplest for you. Long, short, short, but don't tongue them too harshly. Long, short, short. Now, the second beat is a low B flat again. That is thumb 1, 2, 3, first finger, and it slurs up to a D. Then look at the third beat. The 16th and the 8th notes flipped jobs as in they were in the first beat. So this is tritate, short, short, long, and it has the same articulation marks, staccato, staccato, legato, short, short, long, tritate. I would write in the counts just like I did for the first beat. Then the last note is that low G, and it's for a quarter note. Make sure that the B flat in the third beat is marked. I went ahead and marked that too, just to make sure I played it correctly. Let's count measure 28, and then we'll play it. 2, measure 28, count. 1, theta, 2, te, 3, ta, te, 4. You might have to practice that multiple times to get those 16th rhythms worked out. Let's play it. 2, ready, here we play. Okay, look at measure 29. We have the rhythm 1 ta theta, 2 ta theta, 3, and that is the end of that variation. It's not the end of that measure, but it's the end of that variation. Look at the notes. We have a C to a B flat that is slurred, then staccato, light detached tongue, low A, low G. You might just practice that first beat. Look at that second beat. Low A, low G, F sharp. I would get your pencil and put a sharp in front of that F. It's just like what we had in measure 25. Thumb 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that bottom set of keys, the top one. That's your F sharp. Then it jumps up to an A, 2 fingers up. You gotta move them at the same time, and then it finishes with that low G. You slur the first 2 16ths, staccato tongue the next 2, then play that low G as a full quarter note. I would practice that part by itself slowly, then speed it up. It's also good to do that with a metronome. Let's count measure 29. 2, ready, here we count. 1 ta theta, 2 ta theta, 3. Let's play it. 2, ready, here we play. And let's play all of variation 4, measures 26 through 29. 2, ready, here we go. Okay, now we're heading into the final variation, variation number 5, which is measures 30 through 38. If you'll look at your music on this one too, you'll notice that this variation is also 2 lines long. So you have to play both lines to complete this variation. And also this is the final variation, so it's the end of the entire piece as well. Look at measure 30, and I'm going to use little quotation marks there because that is actually not a full measure. Remember, that is the last beat, beat 4 of measure 29. Now the music program went ahead and labeled that as measure 30, so we're going to go ahead and call it 30, but actually it's the last beat of measure 29. If you will notice, that last, or that first thing you'll see is a 16th rest. And underneath that, I wrote the number 4 in parentheses because that technically is beat 4. Then the 16ths after that are the ta-ta-ta. So to start this, it would start on that downbeat being silent, and then you would have the ta-ta-ta after it. So ta-ta-ta. One suggestion is to grunt on that downbeat rest to fill in the gap. Ta-ta-ta. Ta-ta-ta. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but that's what you want to think. You'll notice that the 16ths are marked staccato, light or separated, a very light tongue, and then you have a D, E, then an F sharp. I would mark that and make sure you use first finger F sharp, and we're going to go ahead and play the first note of measure 31 to complete it. Ta-ta-ta 1. Ta-ta-ta 1, and it gets into that downbeat of 1. We're just going to count that little pickup notes, that measure 30, and the downbeat of 1 and play it. 2, ready and count now. Ta-ta-ta 1. Let's play it. 2, ready and play now. So that's how that one will sound there. Now, when we get to measure 31, we are now in 2/4 time. 2/4 time, 2 beats per measure, and the quarter note still gets the beat. Look at that measure 31. We have the dotted, the 8th note, 2/16 rhythms. 1, ta-ta, 2, ta-ta. The notes are very simple. It's just G, 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 A, and notice they're all marked staccato, light, separated. Don't let these notes touch each other, but make sure you're playing the rhythm very accurately. 1, ta-ta, 2, ta-ta. 1, ta-ta, 2, ta-ta. Let's go ahead and just count and play measure 31. Ready and count. 1, ta-ta, 2, ta-ta. And let's play it. 2, ready, here we play. Good. I did remember, just realized now we don't have that dynamic marking. Remember the last dynamic that we played was basically a mezzo piano? You're going to maintain that dynamic through this entire variation. Excuse me for not mentioning that earlier. All right, let's go on to measure 32. Now in measure 32, you start with a B flat, A in the register key. So that is a B flat. The rhythm now, though, flips to the 1 ta-te, the 2/16ths, and then the 8th, 1 ta-te. I didn't write that underneath there, but you can choose to do that on your own if you feel you need it still. So measure 32, then you go back up to A on the second beat. The last note is a high D. We haven't seen this one yet. Thumb register 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No pinkies. That's that high D. And it's just like the C or the B natural we played before. Don't be tight in your throat. Open like you're fogging up a window on a cold day. Firm corners, but not biting. Remember, this is a bigger mouthpiece. You got to let that reed speak. And then also just making sure you're getting your fingers to hit accurately on that high D. And it should pop out very easily. Okay, so let's count measure 32, and then we'll play it. 2, measure 32, count. 1 ta-te, 2 te. And let's play it. 2, and ready, play, go. Okay, now getting into measure 33, we've got some more high notes here. In this measure, we don't have any staccatos, but we do have legatos, long, smooth, connected. So this is going to be very smooth and even here. So we start with a D, the note that we finished playing in measure 32, thumb register 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that high D. Then it's D, D, E flat, and that is the top set of keys, the top one, the top pinky here. That's how you're going to play that E flat. You'll note that you're using your right hand pinky to play that note. That's why I wrote the letter R over that note. So D, D, E flat, tongue, slur. You might just practice playing those notes first. This is over that register, over that break, so don't bite down, keep nice, open, and relaxed. Now, the next note is a C natural. You might think you will want to go down to this C here, but that will be incorrect. You don't want to slide your finger down to get to that C. That's an incorrect fingering. The reason why is it will cause it not to be smooth and connected if you do get it to move down smoothly. But a lot of players accidentally get a D in there because they have to pick this finger up to move it down here. We don't want to hear this. Because you're that little extra note there. So what can we do? Well, the bass clarinet or clarinet is designed for this. On the set of left-hand keys here, left-hand pinky keys, there's this one that's right below the C sharp, G sharp pinky, and it's down here. This is called the left-hand C, and if you look, it pushes down that C key for you. So from that E flat with the right pinky, the top pinky, you'll use the left-hand C for that C. So I would practice just adding that note, going from E flat to that C. The first few times you try it, it will be a little bit awkward because it might be new, but it's not going to get any easier unless you start trying to use it. So, and again, I'll write an L over that C to remind me to use that left-hand pinky L. Then you repeat that note. I would still go ahead and use it since you're already there for that C, and then you slur up to the D. So let's count measure 33, then we'll play it. 2, ready, here we count. 1, take-ta, 2, take-ta. Let's go ahead and play it. 2, ready, here we go. Okay, now look at measure 34. In measure 34, we start with a B flat again, A in the register key. The first two notes are staccato sixteenths, one ta and then te, one ta te. So if you need to write that rhythm under there, you're more than welcome to do it. The last three notes are legato, smooth and connected eighth notes. One ta te, two te, long and connected. Open G, A, and then the last note's that D, thumb register 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, without any pinky. One ta te, two te. Keep nice and relaxed going up to that D. Don't bite, but firm corners, and get all those fingers down and make sure you get that register key down. Let's count measure 34. 2, ready, here we count. One ta te, two te. Let's play it. And 2, ready, here we play. So what I'm going to do real quick is go ahead and play measure 30, those pickup notes, in all of that line in variation 5, 31, 32, 33, and 34. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, and here we go now. Okay, look at measure 35 now. Measure 35 is just 16th notes for both rhythms. 1 ta te ta, 2 ta te ta. So the rhythm's not going to be very difficult here. Look at the articulations. We slur the first two notes, then staccato tongue the next two, slur, short, short, or separated, detached. Then it does the same thing in the next beat. Slur, short, short. Slur, tongue, tongue, slur, tongue, tongue. So again, not too difficult there too. Now, if you look at the notes, the very first note's an open G, the second note should be an F sharp. We're going to use that first finger. I would take the pencil and put the sharp symbol in front of that F. Then it goes back to open G, A. Then we have an accidental B flat, A in the register key. Then slur down to the A. The next note is still that B flat. I went ahead and marked that in my music too so I wouldn't forget it and play an accidental B natural. Then the last note in that measure is a C. Thumb register 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that top bottom pinky, that C. Remember, open in the chest, nice relaxed, firm corners but not biting, and get those fingers down. It should come out very easily for you. Now we're going to go ahead and play the next note in measure 36 to finish that one, and it goes up to a D in its tongue. Thumb register 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So from that C, the bottom top pinky down, pick it up to go to that D. So in this measure, if you will look underneath the B flat A, B flat D, C, D, to that D, I have the RH down, right hand down. You can leave this right hand down playing B flat, A, B flat, C, and it just saves you time from having to get those fingers down as well. So I think that's a very good idea, and that's why I marked that to remind myself to do that. All right, let's count measure 35, and then we'll play it. And remember, we're adding the first note to measure 36 too. 2, and here we count. 1, ta, tick, ta, tick, ta, tick, ta, 1. Let's play it. 2, 35, here we play. Now, take a look at measure 36. Very simple rhythm. 1, 2. You tongue the first note and you slur the rest. Very simple articulation. The dynamics haven't changed from before either. Again, we're maintaining the same mezzo-piano dynamic. Now, the notes are a D, thumb register 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like we just left off. You're going to go 1 higher to an E, thumb register 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That last note is an F sharp. I would take my pencil and put the sharp in front of that note. F sharp is thumb register 1, 2, 3, the middle finger. F sharp, like a low B natural, but it's a high F sharp. So the notes again are D, E, F sharp. D, E, F sharp. Don't bite on these notes. Keep nice, relaxed, and open in your throat. And just keep that air moving fast. You should have no problem playing this measure. Let's count 36. 2. Ready, here we count. 1, 2. Let's play it. 2, and here we play it. Now take a look at measure 37. At the beginning, we have that rhythm 1 ta, so that 8th note and 2 16ths, and then the second beat's 2 ta ta. And we're going to go ahead and add the downbeat of 1 in measure 38. Now, the first note is marked legato, smooth, connected, long. The 16ths after are staccato, short, 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 long, short, short. Then we slur the next two. Then the last two are also short, short. Long, short, short, slur, short, short. Now, let's take a look at the notes. That first note is the high G. That is thumb register 1, 2, 3. That's our highest note. A lot of players are going to try to bite and get tense and tight to try to help that note out. To counteract that, practice the register studies. So play the low C, thumb 1, 2, 3, for like a half note, and then just add the register key. See if you can make that high G speak without doing anything weird. You might have to repeat that multiple times. Then you might try to just start that high G. Get that note to speak. Now, after that high G, the next note's not an F sharp, that's a natural symbol. Thumb register 1, 2, 3, first finger. Remember, F sharp was the middle finger, this is first finger. The next note's that E flat we had in measure 33. Thumb register 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the top pinky. So from that F, you're going to have to put 3 fingers down to get to that next note, E flat. Then you let go of the pinky, you play the D, then you play the C after that, and then with the bottom pinky, then up E flat, A in the register key, it's marked for you, then A, and remember we're going to that open G in 38. You can choose to leave the right hand down on the B flat, A, open G if you want to. All right, let's count 37, the first note of 38, and then we'll play it. 2, ready, here we count. 1, tita, 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 1. Let's play it. 2, ready, here we play. Now, the last measure, measure 38, is very simple. The rhythm is 1, 2. We also have legatos over all the notes, smooth and connected, long. Now, the first notes are open G, no problem. But then that top note is the high G, thumb register 1, 2, 3. Again, a lot of players are going to try to bite and choke to get that note to come out. Don't do that. Just be relaxed in your throat, firm corners, and light tongue to get that note to speak. If it doesn't speak, you're not going to earn bonus points by trying to make it speak 50 times before it comes out. go ahead and keep the rhythmic integrity, pretend it played it perfectly, and finish out the piece. It will be just as good as just making that note come out. All right, let's count measure 38 and then we'll play it. 2, ready, here we count. 1, take 2, playing. 2, here we play. Okay, we're going to play 35, 36, 37, 38. 2, ready, and play. Now we're going to play all of variation 5 starting in measure 30 and play all the way to the end. 2, ready, and here we go now. Okay, that gets us through the entire piece. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to play it straight through without a metronome at a tempo of about 90. You can choose to try and play that with me multiple times as well. But before you do that, I highly recommend you keep at a slow tempo and make sure you learn everything as cleanly as you can first. What I also suggest is remember that you don't have to play the entire piece if you're not comfortable doing that. You can stop at other variations or just the theme if need be too. But I would pick whatever variation that you're stopping at and try to speed that up a little bit at a time. Like maybe 1 or 2 clicks, and then go back and play the variations before it all the way up to the theme, just to make sure you're maintaining the same speed all the way throughout. You can choose to play the audition where you start at a faster tempo at the theme, and as you get to the more technical ones, slow down. But you won't get as much consideration as if you can play it the same tempo straight through. Now, when you start practicing too, the other thing you want to do when you get closer to the audition and actually getting ready to perform this piece, you really want to start thinking about the phrasing or where you're going to take your breaths. Some of them are marked like we've pointed out through here. However, others you're going to want to make sure that you're getting good full breaths and you're practicing taking those breaths. Don't wait till the day of the audition and the performance to figure out, I don't think I'm going to make it here, I really need a breath. Start figuring that out now. Plan your breaths in advance. Make sure that you don't take breaths in the middle of a slur or at big dynamic changes. That's kind of a big no-no. Also, a lot of times, try to avoid taking your breath at the end of every measure, especially 2. All right. When you do take your breaths, work for a clean release. Don't just cut the note off. Maybe taper them off a little bit and make sure you have a clean start for the next note. And make sure you do this within tempo as well too. One other thing you might need to start doing as you get closer to the actual audition is what I say is practice to perform. And what I mean by that is start at the beginning and go to the end without stopping, even if you have errors. Practice the performance, because in the performance you don't stop for mistakes. You got to keep going. So make sure you start trying to practice to perform. You also should start trying to record yourself with a phone or other device and listen to yourself played back as well. You're going to be your worst critic every time. I would also highly recommend playing in front of others. That's going to get your adrenaline pumping and make it more like the actual audition. So play for your director or your private teacher, your parents, other family members, or maybe other students who are going to the camp with you. One other thing I highly recommend too is mentally preparing yourself for that audition as well. And what I mean by that is once you start really feeling like you've got this worked up and you're doing well, mentally practice seeing yourself going to that audition and playing everything really well and how you might feel and how exciting that might be for you. Don't wait till the day of and let that panic come over you or adrenaline come over you and then you kind of fumble around a little bit. If you've already practiced thinking about how that's going to be when you actually perform it well, you can default to that in the actual audition as well too. All right, a couple of other quick things here. It is absolutely acceptable to play this audition material where you play the theme, Stop for a second, reset, and then play variation 1. Stop for a second, reset, do variation 2. That is perfectly acceptable. It is also okay if you start at the beginning and play straight through without stopping. That is what I'm going to do here in just a second. Also, as you get closer to the camp, think about your reeds. You will want to have a lot of reeds for this camp. It is a 2-week camp. I highly recommend 1 or 2 boxes. You will use them all, I promise. If you try to do this camp with 1 reed, you will not make it past maybe 1 day. So make sure you've got plenty of reeds ready to go and you rotate through them throughout the camp. Also, don't wait till the day of the audition to open a reed and try it and hope it's going to be good for you for your audition. Go ahead and open those reeds in advance, find the best ones, and make sure you use that one for your audition. Okay, like I said, I'm going to play through the entire etude at a tempo of about 90 without a metronome. I hope that this video has helped you, and then remember, you could go back and watch it as many times as you need. I know this is a great camp, and I really hope that you have a great experience coming up there. I hope you do a great job on your audition. I also hope I get to see you there. So keep up the good work, and thank you very much. Bye.